How fast can I make a cozy game? Last month, I made a video talking about the rise of cozy games and the characteristics of what makes a game cozy, based on a document called Project Horseshoe. Now, despite sounding like an undercover operation from World War II, Project Horseshoe actually is a pretty detailed analysis on what actually makes a game cozy. And what better way to see if it's legit than to actually try to make a game based on its recommendations. So the first thing I did was to determine what the game would actually be. Now, I couldn't do anything extremely complex because I was also trying to build this relatively quick. In the previous cozy game video, I mentioned that many cozy games emphasize the sense of the mundane, more specifically emphasizing simple gameplay mechanics and settings like farming, fishing, and cooking. So when I was thinking about game ideas for this cozy game, my mind instantly went to chopping trees in Runescape. Not sure why. An extremely simple and almost boring mechanic, but people do it for so long, it's almost meditative. So that's the main mechanic. Chopping trees. Now for the aesthetics, I chose the 2D pixel art style because to me, that's always associated with a cozier vibe, and also I'm just the most comfortable with building games that are 2D pixel art. You can also find all of the art assets I used in the description below. Now another key aspect of cozy games that Project Horseshoe highlights, and that I mentioned in the first video, is the sense of security and warmth, and I tried to achieve this in two different ways. Now first, if the main mechanic is chopping trees, then the main setting is likely a forest, and forests in video games are not generally known to be cozy, but to combat this, I tinted all of the lighting. Now, why does that make it feel warmer? Because I made it all kind of like an orangey glow. The second way was to lean into the utilization of space. Another key aspect of cozy games, finding that special amount of stuff in an area so that it doesn't feel cluttered and overwhelming, but also not too empty and isolating. With a little help from Comrade Claude, I implemented an algorithm to spawn grass and trees in sort of like an organic way, and if we pump up those parameters on the grass spawner, we get a surprisingly cozy forest environment. Now, since I didn't want this to evolve into yet another unfinished side project in my backlog, I needed to finish the gameplay loop. So what I came up with is that you, as the player, just kind of walk around and chill and chop trees to get logs. Instead of building a cabin or something, I just wanted to emphasize just kind of living in nature. So I added a small campsite where the player can rest, you do this cute little animation, and then it respawns all of the trees that you chop down. And you use the logs you got to feed this little guy I call a nature spirit. And depending on how much you feed him, more will spawn when you rest. I also added a little bit of backstory that I'll leave as a secret in case you actually want to play the game. To really tie back to that whole Runescape, woodcutting, idle game idea, I added the ability to just right-click to move and to chop trees instead of having to use WASD. I popped some instructions on that bad boy, and from a gameplay functional side, I think it's ready to go. So the whole thing is basically just chopping trees to spawn little guys, which I felt like is a pretty good cozy game vibe. And now the last key aspect was audio, which is a very crucial part of every cozy game. Personally, I really like lo-fi, so I added a bunch of lo-fi tracks. I also added this playlist sort of interface so that you can just flip between songs and see the title and artist. So now, given everything, I think we put together kind of a nice little cozy idle game, which you can play now fully for free at the link in the description. Now, I didn't track every hour, mostly because I was working on this on and off between other things, but I think I overall probably spent around 10 to 15 hours building this. Now, I definitely did save a lot of time, especially on the art side, obviously on the music side. I didn't produce all the music, and I used some of those chat LLMs to help on the coding side here and there. But I think ultimately with all that, we turned around something relatively quick. But I also want to mention my first major game that I've been working on for the last year called Castlemancer, which is a roguelike deck builder mixed with sort of a Age of Empires strategy type of game. Now, I've been putting in a ton of work into that. There's another devlog coming soon and a demo coming soon. I'm actually getting really proud of it. It's starting to feel like a very, very proper game. So if that sounds like something up your alley or maybe something you're interested in, please wishlist it over on Steam because that really helps me out. I also want to quickly mention this video's sponsor, Keychron, and their K2 HE wireless magnetic switch keyboard. Now, if you're in the tech space, you're probably already familiar with Keychron. They make absolutely fantastic keyboards, so when they offered to send me the K2, I was super excited. So if you're coding a lot like me, you know that a good keyboard can actually really keep you productive for a long lot longer and actually help you type faster. The K2 has Keychron double rail magnetic nebula switches, which make a super smooth and satisfying key press. The K2 HE also has a super minimalist aesthetic. It can also be used over wired, over Bluetooth, or just traditional wireless, which I've actually been experimenting with by just bringing over my keyboard and mouse to my TV and couch, and actually just being able to code over there instead of just sitting at my desk. So if you're in the market for a new keyboard, definitely check out the Keychron K2 HE with my link in the description below. And thank you to Keychron for supporting the channel. Thank you all for watching. I also wanted to spend a couple minutes here at the end to just talk about 2024, what's coming up in 2025. I think in 2024, I've made about 26, 27-ish videos, which works out to be about, you know, once every 2 weeks. Now, that's not as often as I would like, but with a lot of these game development videos, they do take longer to edit, to produce, to write, to film than some of those talking head videos that I used to make. But I do really enjoy making them, so I'm okay with putting in that extra effort, but it's not at the frequency that I would like. So going into 2025, I'd actually like to make a lot more game development type videos. I want to thank each and every one of you, whether you watched one video in the past, or this is your first video, or you watched all of the videos in the past. Thank you all for just spending some of your time with me, learning about game development, following my development of Castlemancer, and thank you to everyone who already wishlisted Castlemancer over on Steam. It really means a lot. I know a lot of game developers or YouTubers say this, but it actually helps a lot with getting your game in front of other people. The Steam algorithm looks at wishlist counts as one of the sort of key metrics. So as I start to put out that demo and as I start to update the Steam page a little bit, it still needs, you know, some reworking, some updating, but everyone that's done it so far, it really, really means a lot to me. I would also love to know what types of videos you guys would like to see more of, whether that's more game development videos, specifically like devlogs, or maybe you more like the technical analysis of different video games or styles, or maybe you like videos like this one where I try to make a game really quick or with a certain theme. Or if you want to see more talking head videos, talking about career advice, talking about broad, less game development topics, I can certainly make more of those. For those that don't know, I did quit my full-time job at Google to work at sort of like a game development adjacent startup. So if that's something you're interested in, I can totally make videos about that. Just let me know in the comments down below what sort of videos you're into. So again, thank you all so much for your support. It's been a great 2024. I'm really excited for 2025. So hopefully I see you there. We do a bad British accent at the end of every video. That's all for me, and hopefully I see you in another one. Bye-bye.